about. And I mentioned public funding, but at the end of the day, the bulk of our funding is philanthropic. And so I would encourage your listeners to look at an organization like Father Joe's Villages, who is effective in what it's doing, that helps those not only who are on the streets, but the community at large.
Cloudcast 180. Powerful people, powerful stories, 180 seconds.
The San Diego Union Tribune and Retirement Strategies Group present the Union Tribune Community Spotlight Show with your host, Drew Schlossberg.
I'm Drew Schlossberg of the San Diego Union Tribune, and we are back with the American Heart Association San Diego Division. Stacy Weaver is the Executive Director of the association, joined by her colleague, Dr. Tarane Sondoozi. She is the GM of VEBA Resource Center Programming. Talk about can't ignore the mental part as well, which ties beautifully into the heart as well. We're going to talk more about. She's got some great examples how we can tie into this, especially with starlings and murmurization, if I got the word right on that aspect of it. But Stacy, talk a little bit about, we mentioned this American Heart Month is February. You got the Go Red for Women Luncheon on the 28th of February at the U.S. Grant. Almost sold out. So if you folks are listening, get on it and go to the organization's website to sign up for that. But how important is it to know your numbers? I mean, listen, that is a no-brainer, correct?
Absolutely. American Heart Association has the Life Simple 7, and part of that is knowing your numbers and understanding them and regularly checking them. So not just knowing them once, but regularly checking them. And that is the cholesterol numbers, your BMI or your body weight index, glucose, your blood pressure, and understanding how to eliminate tobacco, move more, and eat better.
Right, exactly, and love better, and be empathetic better. And
there you go. There's another number you can add, and if it's a simple personal inquiry on a daily basis of where am I psychosocially, where am I emotionally, 0 being, I just won the lotto, everything's phenomenal and fantastic, right. And 10 being, I don't know how I'm going to go through my next hour.
Right.
And understanding that number and being able to reach out to organizations such as the American Heart Association, VEBA, if it's appropriate for you to reach out to get that psychosocial support around that particular number would be incredible.
Yeah, without question on this, how much do you folks go into schools? And you mentioned Cindy Martin, of course, superintendent at San Diego Unified. But do you go to the schools and talk about these things? Obviously, it's got to be sort of age appropriate to some extent. Or do they come to you? How does that work? We
absolutely do. We actually have a program called Kids Heart Challenge. And the Kids Heart Challenge identifies the need to move more, so it really emphasizes on healthy food, eating, and exercise. But we just added in this last year a component to the mental health, and it was do something, do better, do one good deed a day. And so we're teaching children to think about how they treat each other, which is about heart and mental health.
Mm-hmm. Right. We were chatting at break about starlings and all this business. I love the analogy. Talk about that.
Absolutely. And to kind of piggyback on what Stacy was saying, I think at VEBA, we support those who support our children, right? So we go out into the districts, into the schools, and offer all kinds of programs, offerings on mental health and on psychosocial support for our providers. As far as the starlings are concerned, they're a tiny little bird and very vulnerable individually. But collectively, when they sense danger, they swarm together, and it's called a murmuration because of the sound that their wings make. And a heart murmurs. Some people have heart murmurs as well, right? And so what happens in these swarmings is the bird, there's no leader, but each bird is responsive and connected to the 7 birds around them. And collectively, they form such amazing shapes in the sky that wards off predator. And I think it's a wonderful metaphor for how, we ail in community and we heal in community. And our organizations, there are plenty of other wonderful organizations that we connect with, partner with, really create that circling of the wagons around people who might be having issues with their heart, both metaphorically, from an emotional perspective, and physically from a medical
Well,
perspective.
listen, I think that is so spot on, and we all know this. We can't talk about mental health enough. It goes hand in hand with your heart and all that. You folks know this because you work in that space, but I think a lot of people never really thought about it that way, and we know this. We have a lot of youth groups that come on our show, and one of the groups we're really always enjoy having on is Just in Time for Foster Youth. It's run by Don Wells, who was the news director for ABC. But it's a group of kids who are now have been sort of turned out of the foster, area. And if nothing else, we talk about it all the time, and it ties so perfectly into mental health. So many people out there have never been told they've been loved or hugged or, you did great work, and which is unfathomable to most of us, of course, growing up in families. But there's a ton of people out there with this. It almost gets to the basis of what you're talking about. That doesn't cost any money to sit there and be doing what the Starlings are doing, okay? It doesn't cost anything except just being empathetic and, taking a step back and how important the mental health is in this. And it does go hand in hand with healthy heart and all this. Stacy, going back to you, are there things on the website, and before we forget, shout out the texting again, that if you can't make the event, you can certainly donate via texting also.
Absolutely. Text SD Go Red to 71777.
Right, exactly. So if you can't make the Go Red for Women Luncheon on the 20th, you can certainly do that. Is there advice or tips or whatever on the site? Here's how you need to be, your heart, keep it healthy and all that. You mentioned about, obviously, know your numbers and all that. Now, listen, some of it is obvious. Probably should not have, massive cheeseburgers every single day for the rest of your life, right? You need to exercise. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And some of it, of course, is genetic, right? We know that in that aspect. Are there helpful hints on the site?
There are. There's actually quite a few helpful hints of how to eat, what you should be eating, the number of servings you should eat. But if we actually need to go a little deeper than that in San Diego. We are fighting heart disease and stroke that are number 1 and number 5 killers of all Americans by making places we work, live, love, play, and pray and heal healthier. We're doing this with an emphasis on improving access to healthy food, blood pressure management, and reducing tobacco toll. And why that's important to say in San Diego is we can tell everyone how to eat well, but we need to give them access to those foods. We need to be able to tell them how to do that. So we're working with as American Heart Association with many of our sponsors like VEBA to figure that out, to figure out how do we get access to individuals who don't have access now in food deserts. It's amazing. 1 in 7 students in San Diego are food insecure.
Yeah, well, listen, our good friend Jim Flores is always on the show with us, and our friends from Feeding San Diego as well, Vince. And it, again, gets back to this aspect of kids that have never been told they're loved, or they've never been to the beach, and they live in San Diego. They've never, it gets right to the point of all of this over here. And if you don't think it's happening in this city, then you're just not as informed as you need to be on this. That's why you need to go. Our listeners just encourage you to get engaged with the American Heart Association. Go to the website, take a look at the events that are coming up, and so forth. We got about 2 minutes to go over here, Dr. Sondoozi. You're going to talk about a story about yourself when you were making, $3.50 an hour, you said?
That's $3.50 an hour.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I'm making now. But that's
no, actually, it's how I fed my heart for $3.95.
$3.95. I'm sorry.
Right, but before we get that, I think this is perhaps even a more important message, and that is in joining American Heart Association and supporting them and in our collaboration. I think we are both the organizations are really talking about that good health and well-being is not the absence of disease.
Right.
It is how a human being, an individual, is connected, intentionally connected with their own well-being. Right? And both of our organizations are there to promote the awareness of that, the recognition of that, and also provide services, opportunities, resources that allow individuals to stop and step away from the mode of doing and get into the mode of being and be with themselves in a way that promotes their well-being.
Right.
So I think that, for me, is at the heart of our sistership here, the two organizations.
Yeah. Well, again, it is something that like life in general. Some of the stuff is just common sense, not that humans practice common sense. Let's say we're walking upright, and it's, if you stay the course and you can change things, you can turn things around on this. We've got about a minute to go. You want to talk about your 395?
I do, and it's basically, it's a long story that I'll shorten, and it's having had a very stressful 6 months of the year last year, and being invited to go to a bakery to have something sweet in a cup of tea, which is one of my favorite cures for anything that ails me. And stepping in and realizing that I don't really want to eat the eclair that's there.
Right.
And finding a little girl that showed up and wanted a cupcake.
Yeah.
And I offered to buy the cupcake, and I did, with the mother's permission. And something came over me, and I told her that a cupcake was not for me.
Right.
I asked her if she's been talking to her fairy godmother, and she said yes. I said, well, then she sees you, she hears you, and the cupcake's from her.
Right.
And what unveiled from that, which unfortunately we don't have time for me to get into, was an incredible experience.
Right. Well, we'll hold on to that because maybe we'll circle back on that sometime down the road. Stacy, shout out the website one more time.
It's go to SD Go Red and text 71777 to go.
Very good. Stacy Weaver and Dr. Sondoozi, thank you so much for joining us. It's my pleasure. It is American Heart Month, February. You know those numbers exactly. I'm Drew Schlossberg, and you've been listening to the Community Spotlight Show.
Thank you for listening to a podcast from Cloudcast Media, the digital media home for leading local brands. When it comes to amplifying your brand, a Cloudcast-sponsored show offers unbeatable value. Learn more at cloudcast.us.
Cloudcast 180. Powerful people, powerful stories, 180 seconds.
Welcome to Cloudcast 180, the 3-minute lightning round with changemakers here in San Diego. We're here with Ed Heiner, 20-year Navy SEAL, best-selling author, and education entrepreneur. Ed, welcome to the Cloudcast 180.
Thanks for having me.
Your book was called First Fast Fearless, so let's hit this fast and fearlessly. Real quick, you created a program to help change lives of high school students around the country. It's called SEALpreneurship. Tell our audience what it's all about.
Well, it's about leading yourself. Getting a PhD in me, I teach kids how to take care of themselves and lead themselves first, and how to be their own intrapreneur, if you will.
Is it something you think public education is lacking, this concept of self-leadership?
Absolutely. It's a mindset that kids don't get. My son doesn't get in his school. The kids don't get it. It's something that, we're educating them, but to be mentally tough and be able to take charge of themselves and accountable for themselves is very unique.
Okay. I've seen an overview of your curriculum, 23 evolutions, and you have a 23-minute podcast series. So what's up with 23?
Chromosomes, right? It's all in all of us. We're all the same. 99.9% of everybody in this world is the same. And we use those chromosomes, 23 pairs, which was one of the concepts we teach as swim buddies, never be alone. Mm-hmm. Always work with someone else, collaborate, and be out there.
Boy, that's a lesson for life for sure. Ed, you were in charge of basic and advanced training for the U.S. Navy SEALs, and I mentioned you're a 20-year SEAL. Tell our audience the greatest lesson from the SEALs that have changed you forever.
Probably in the back of a helicopter one night in Iraq before I was getting ready to fly into an Al-Qaeda target, it dawned on me that when a pilot said, you have this many souls on board, it dawned on me that the opposite of fear is love. It's not else. I don't fight for what I hate in front of me. I fight for what's beside me, behind me, that I love.
Wow, it's a powerful concept. Wow. You've talked a lot about the blue-collar scholar as a concept. Fascinating. Tell our audience, what is the blue-collar scholar as it relates to your SEALpreneurship program?
It's a mental concept where people take control. Don't outsource their life. Look, we're going to have people that are in white coats, suits and ties, doctors, PhDs. That's fine. Listen to that and learn your information from them. But eventually, you got to be that mechanic in your own life. You got to turn the wrench. This is happening. So basically, take control of your own life. Use what you can use from other people. Discard it, what you can't, and make that your own. Leadership is something that you do. It's you do with people, not to them. And one of the best forms of leadership I learned in the back of that helicopter is called MOM.
Ed,
focus on mission, others, me.
Mission, others, me. Ed, thank you for being here. This has been the Cloudcast 180. We hit it fast and fearlessly. We're out.
Cloudcast 180. Powerful people, powerful stories, 180 seconds.